In 1990, David Wechter and Bruce Kimmel wrote the first draft of the screenplay for The Faculty, but at the time, no one was buying. 6 years later, after Scream was released, it was officially bought by Miramax. The Weinsteins brought on Kevin Williamson to do rewrites, but keeping the main concept of the story. Originally, Kevin Williamson was set to direct the film as well, but he wanted to direct his own script, Teaching Mrs. Tingle, instead, so Robert Rodriguez was brought on to direct the film. Despite being a major box office hit, it only received mixed reviews from critics and audiences, and later became a cult classic. Despite this, it has received critical analysis in terms of the other sci-fi films it is influenced by, as well as showcasing its themes of teen alienation, losing individuality, female sexuality, and reinventing the femme fatale of film noirs. The Faculty is what happens when you take The Breakfast Club, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, The Thing, and Scream, and throw it into a blender. The action starts immediately with Robert Patrick getting taken over by God knows what in the first 5 minutes, and it does not let up from there. The pacing was quick and to the point, but still took advantage of those slower paced and tension-filled scenes. With this, the scares are actually quite well done and pretty effective. It does take notes from many horror films before it, but it does manage to be fresh and new despite this, even if it does rip off scenes from other films, like the blood test scene from The Thing, but not being nearly as effective. However, still a decent scene as it's more dark comedy driven than horror driven. The main cast of characters actually had very good chemistry with one another as well. While it did have those opposites attracting sort of thing that so many people ripped off from The Breakfast Club, there is a reason why it becomes a trope in the first place. And here, it does work. I thought that despite everything, all these characters worked really well together, and I genuinely cared about them as characters. Even as some are more annoying than others, it made them distinct enough and possibly a bit more natural. It was sort of this even balance where they seem like good friends and can get along in the current situation, but there is that certain level of bickering and fighting with one another, almost like siblings. I think each character works off everyone very well, and it doesn't until they all meet when everything is going down, where it all feels sort of complete. It also has a lot of those conventions that specifically the latter part of the 90s became famous for, thanks to Scream, where it was constantly pointing out the more famous work that this is similar to and leeching off the tropes and ideas from that. Considering Kevin Williamson made rewrites, it certainly makes sense. But here, I think it's done better because it's a bit less in your face about it. However, it's because of Williamson's writing, this definitely sticks out like a sore thumb in director Robert Rodriguez's filmography, as this shows very little resemblance to his adult works. Hell, the movie he directed before this one was From Dusk Till Dawn, for Christ's sake. But, despite this, The Faculty is still pretty effective, as I just couldn't help but love this movie. It was so fun to watch. It was a great homage to the many horror films before it. The chemistry between the main cast is almost pitch perfect. The premise, pacing, action, scares, and dark comedy are executed damn well. While I will say it is very cheesy in places and definitely feels like a product of the time, I couldn't help but love it, and would dare say it's an underrated gem.